Hello, my dear friends, and welcome back to the Green Schwinn official channel, where I'm going to go on one of my little rants and thought processes on a topic. Today, I am going to discuss my thoughts on why George R.R. Martin has not released The Winds of Winter yet, and why, in general, he has been taking longer in between books. Well, I'd say this one is taking particularly a long time because with A Dance with Dragons having come out in 2011, that was the first one, and perhaps we will see the only one to come out during the run of the television program. And since then, the World of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, and all these novels and everything have become much, much more popular, and the eyes of the world are on him. So I feel like he is much more inclined to make it great, because when he started off in the 90s, as he has said himself, he was just writing the best he can, the best book series he could. But now the whole world's watching and the eyes of history are upon him, and he knows that these are forever going to be what he's remembered for, so he doesn't want to make anything that's just good. I think he wants to make something that is phenomenally good, and better than anything he's done in the past. So he's really feeling the pressure to make this amazing, because again, when he started, it was just he was a well established writer, but now he's the fantasy writer everyone thinks of, apart from Tolkien, which is fair to say because Song of Ice and Fire books they're very, very good, and he wants to make sure that what he's writing lives up to that standard, I think, and he's just trying to perfect everything, which is understandable. I don't even blame him for taking as much time as he needs to. If he wants to make this his magnum opus, which he already does, but he wants to be, make sure everyone looks at it and doesn't judge it, unfavorably, because a lot of people already sort of, which is another point. A lot of people didn't like A Feast for Crows and Dance for Dragons as much, and I think that's pushing him even more to want to make it perfect. And I liked Feast for Crows and Dance with Dragons. In fact, Feast for Crows is possibly my favorite book in the series. But I'm sure in his mind that is also pushing him to make this all the more amazing. And of course, there's also the fact that the books have become more and more complicated, with the story getting bigger and bigger and all the characters. It's very hard to just keep writing a simple story, which he never was in the first place, but it's become less and less simple and more complex as time goes on. And connecting all these stories and bringing them to a head is going to be very complex. And add this on top of wanting to make it as perfect as he can, again, so he isn't judged unfavorably now and in the future. It's just, it's a lot of work, and it's very complex, and he wants to perfect it, which I don't blame him. So I only have recently read the series. I am currently reading A Dance with Dragons. I'm about halfway through it. So I haven't known what it's like to be waiting all these years in between books. I know many fans are upset, but I don't think I would be that upset, because as a creative person myself, I know it takes a lot of time and effort to make these things, and especially where he's in a great position of power, it's going to be even more pressure on him to want to do this as perfect as he can. But it is taking a lot longer than even I would expect, but it's also a very, very, very long book, I'm sure. Dance with Dragons was well over 1,000 pages, and that was the longest one it took him to get out, and it's a lot of work, and it's understandable. But other than that, I think the other reasons are he's involved in other things. He doesn't always want to work on Song of Ice and Fire. I'm sure his mind isn't always there. His heart's not always in the same place, and he works on it as far as the show, whether if directly or not. I'm sure he's involved to some degree, even if it's just approval. He's got other projects going on, and then, of course, I've heard he's got one of his other sci-fi works being adapted into a TV show, and I'm sure that takes a lot of time. So there's just a lot of things going on in his life, I'm sure, on top of doing The Winds of Winter. I think that's why it's taking such a long time to get out there. But I do believe it will be here, if not this year, then next year, because it seems from what he's indicated that it's at least close to being done. My guess is that it's, if not totally done, then close, and he's just reviewing what he's written and cutting out what doesn't need to be there and all those sorts of things. But we'll have to see. We'll just have to see what he does. But I think we have a lot to look forward to with it. I think if he is able to wrap this story up in 2 books, which I'm not sure if he will be, then I think there's going to be a lot of things starting to finally be tied together here in this 6th book, because there's a lot to start getting tied up here. Not tied up, but I don't know if that's the right phrasing. But there's a lot to be finished in 2 books. Because if you think about it, the first 2 books, Game of Thrones and Clash of Kings, doesn't seem like the story went incredibly far. So I can't imagine this gigantic story being finished in another 2 books. But who knows? These books are going to be much longer than the previous ones, as he's indicated. So Winds of Winter and Dream of Spring. Who knows what's going to happen? I'm not against having more books. A lot of people think he won't be able to finish it. I think he will, because he does feel that pressure so much. I feel like he's going to take his time, but I feel like if he knew he was on his way out or something was going to happen, I think he would I think he would rush and start getting these things done, because he doesn't want to be viewed unfavorably with the eyes of history upon him, as he knows he already somewhat is. So I highly doubt he won't be able to finish them. I do think he will, but that remains to be seen. We'll just have to see what happens. And I look at it in a bit of a positive light, and I look forward to it. Since I'm not even done with Dance with Dragons, I personally hope that it comes out within the next year or 2, because this way I won't have to wait very long, and it'll still be sort of fresh on my mind. But I'm not sure yet. Obviously, I have to still read Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I do have the book, but I haven't read it yet. I'm looking forward to that. And of course, I'm sort of interested in reading other things he's written as well, fantasy and sci-fi, because I really just genuinely like his writing in Song of Ice and Fire books. So there's plenty of other things to read. Obviously, people do want him to complete Song of Ice and Fire, but I think let him write it. Just let the world go by until it gets there. It's obviously not easy to wait for things you really, really want, but I do believe he won't let us down, and I think it'll come. And I would also like to say I don't see why A Feast for Crows and Dance with Dragons gets as much hate as they do. I highly enjoyed. I'm not done with Dance with Dragons, but I'm highly enjoying it so far. And again, as I stated before, Feast for Crows, I think it was my favorite book in the series so far. It's very well written. People just don't like that a lot of the characters that were in Game of Thrones and the other books weren't in that one, but it's they're still amazing characters, and it's still in the same world, and it's still the same storyline. And I think that part of the storyline is incredibly fascinating. Brienne is my favorite character, I think, in that book. And I also really like Jamie. I didn't think I would like Jamie, like many others, but I think I came to like him a lot. In fact, that's my one of my sad feelings towards Dance with Dragons is there's not much Jamie or Brienne yet. I know they're in the book, but I haven't gotten there yet. And I want them more. Those are some good characters, let me tell you. And I think as hard as it is waiting, just be glad that we have this amazing piece of fantasy to enjoy. Fantasy isn't always taken very seriously, and I think Game of Thrones, like Lord of the Rings, is making has made the public take it a bit more seriously and realize that it's not just all a bunch of nonsense and people who have no friends drinking Mountain Dew in their basement. Not that there's anything wrong with that if people do that, but this gives it a bit more credibility to the masses, and I think George R.R. Martin knows that, and I think that's why he's taking his sweet time with the Winds of Winter. If I had to guess, I don't think he would be taking as long. Will take as long with A Dream of Spring, if only because I think he's setting up Winds of Winter to, and with the intention of knowing where everything is going to end in that seventh book. So I would assume he's planning out both of them so he knows exactly where he's going to be. So this way, by the time he's done with Winds of Winter, he can just have a set in stone sort of palette of where to exactly to take it in that final book, if it is the final book. Of course, this is just my speculation. And I don't know, but I do hope to enjoy both those books soon. Fire and Blood, I'm looking forward to too. Although, in my personal opinion, the Targaryens, I don't care. They were a bunch of invaders from another land, and they're not real Westerosi. Like, I'd rather have what I'd like to have happen is that the North becomes its own country again, with the Starks being their kings. And even though the Baratheons are part Targaryen, I think Stannis should be the king because by right it is. It's his throne, and I'd rather just have him take it than any of the Targaryens or even Jon Snow. Jon Snow is, even if he is a Targaryen, which I don't know yet because it hasn't been revealed in the books. He probably is, but even if he is, he's a Northman. He's a Northern man. You know, he's not really, in my opinion, he was raised there, even if he wasn't born there, and he's the most Stark-like out of all Eddard's children, other than maybe Arya. Both of them are probably about equal. So I think my personal, what I would have happen, what I hope happens, is that I'd rather have Jon remain on the Night's Watch, stay Lord Commander, but if not, have him become king in the North. Who the hell cares about Dany? She sucks. Let her rule some crappy Eastern country, whatever, and have Stannis become king of the South. It's my personal opinion. It's my personal hopes. I doubt that's exactly how it'll go down, but who knows? I don't actually watch the Game of Thrones TV series. I've never seen any of it, but I am enjoying the books. I also highly recommend, if you like A Song of Ice and Fire, look up the song "To Take the Black by the Sword." It's an amazing song, and I think you'll like it. It's about just that, taking the black. And so, my dear friends, that is my thoughts on why George R.R. Martin is taking his time with the Winds of Winter. I know many of you are impatient, but I think it'll come. Relax, enjoy life, and just have fun, my dear friends. And remember to subscribe to the Green Schwinn official channel. You get to hear my wonderful rants on all sorts of amazing topics. Give me topics which you'd like me to discuss, and I'll discuss them. And also, we have wonderful music videos and live videos and all sorts of wonderful things, my dear friends. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you soon, my dear friends.